leadership is not just something you wake up and you become, right? I think it starts over a period of time. It could be years. The biggest challenge has always been finding people like yourself. Finding people like yourself and also just connecting. It can be a very lonely journey when you're having a career in the diaspora. The main thing being you're very different and it's in your face.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Her Leadership series, where we spotlight the remarkable women who are shaping the futures across industries. From business and finance to economics and beyond, we celebrate their inspiring journeys, their groundbreaking achievements, and the contribution to the innovation and change they are making in their different fields.
In this episode, we're excited to feature a visionary leader in the community development space as she shares her journey to success and the invaluable lessons she's been able to gain along the way. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you with us today.
Pleasure is all mine.
Yeah, so how about you start with an introduction?
Okay. Well, my name is Nancy Masila. I'm founder and CEO of Jasiri Network. I don't know what else you want to yeah. Resident in London, but I'm fully Kenyan.
That's amazing. So tell us more about Jasiri. So how did you get to build Jasiri? Was there a specific moment in your journey that inspired the idea?
That's a great question. And the journey of getting to Jasiri Network has been quite long. So it starts all the way in Kenya. So I used to work at not KPMG, but PwC Kenya, just across the road. And I used to work as an IT auditor for almost 3 years, thereabout. I took a bit of a career break, which was very different at that time. And then found myself in London with KPMG UK. And during that time, I didn't have any friends or family or anybody that I knew in London. I was just young, ambitious, wanting to see the world, packed my bags all the way to London and started a career at KPMG. And during that time, wanting to make like friends, find community, also connect with people just like myself, I went out seeking, connections really. And it did start at the office. So over there, there's a huge like African and Caribbean network. And the African network over there, it's composed of like different people from Africa, like myself with like experience from the different countries. And that's where honestly it started, just making friends slowly, finding community, being invited to, get-togethers, being invited for after work. And that's how I formed like my little circle of friends. And over time, I started noticing there were this amazing, incredible young professionals that when you're back here, you don't get to see or hear about their stories. Because I think normally when you look at the traditional media, you'd see stories of, African diaspora struggling. And that's not to take away from their stories and from their experience. But there's also another side where you just have just people thriving in their careers, thriving in their businesses. And so that's what I noticed. And I was like, why don't we do something to kind of connect these young professionals and also change the narrative and also kind of just find support among each other? And literally that's kind of how the little steps towards getting to Jasiri started. But officially, Jasiri Network started on January 2023.
Interesting.
2 years now.
Oh, wow. Congratulations on
you.
that. So that leads us to our next question, which is, you've worked closely with a lot of African diaspora professionals. What would you say are the main challenges they get to encounter, and how has Jasiri been coming through for them?
The African diaspora has many problems and many challenges as well. And also, I think the most important thing to know is the African diaspora is not just one thing. Like, it's a spectrum, and different types of people fall on different parts of the spectrum, right? So you have like international students either doing the undergrad or the master's or PhD in different universities, your Oxbridge, the other universities as well. Then you have young professionals just coming out of uni. You have more experienced professionals, people like myself, where I left my home country and as an experienced professional, and then I joined a company over there like straight away. And then you have other people as well who's been there for longer, we're in leadership positions. We also have people in other like hospitality, nursing. You have other people kind of like first generation, born there or moved when they were young. So it's a huge kind of spectrum. So different people fall at different points, and then the challenges are different for that sort of people. But I would say for what we've seen and with our network, with our community, the biggest challenge has always been finding people like yourself. Finding people like yourself and also just connecting. It can be a very lonely journey when you're having a career in the diaspora. The main thing being you're very different and it's in your face. I kid you not, the first time I moved to London is when I realized I'm black. Like, but when you're in Kenya, you're not black, you're not black per se, you're just you.
Yeah.
But then you go to the UK and all of a sudden you're black. And then now you have to start kind of maneuvering and navigating the whole space of figuring out what that means to you and to the space you're in. So I think the biggest challenge is just, that loneliness of creating a career, of building your life out there and having to navigate a whole new type of life and situation and culture. I could talk for days, but I would say just that finding people like yourself, finding people that resonate with you, and also just figuring out who you are in that new space.
Yeah. So actually, that affirms a conversation I've had a few weeks ago with foreigners, and they were like, it's easier to connect with people here in Nairobi as compared to back at home. I was like, I thought it was the opposite.
Yeah.
Because it's like this whole networking
Yeah.
thing here in Nairobi is like something that is really growing and wasn't there before. So that was something I was like, okay, how true is that?
I would say also Kenyans are very hospitable, very friendly. Other people maybe not as much, because I get that a lot as well. I think Kenyans are just amazing, and even out there when you connect with other Kenyans, and this is the trick, by the way. This is the trick. So we call this our own passport. So whenever you see somebody with this, you kind of just warm up to them, say hi. And sometimes they're not even Kenyan, but they just want to be associated with Kenya. So,
okay, that's amazing. So leadership is always a reflection of your core values.
Yeah.
So what are your values and how does that guide your impact in Jasiri?
That's a good question. I would say leadership is not just something you wake up and you become.
Yeah.
Right? I think it starts over a period of time. It could be years. And I think for me, it's now when I look back, that's when I see how I kind of came to this. Because one, I'm a firstborn. I have 3 younger siblings. So really that kind of tells you a lot about who I am as a person. And then looking back as well, I grew up part of like a huge chunk of my childhood, like so the first 7 years. I lived in rural Kitui, very small village. Everybody knows everybody. Amazing, like I had such a fun time, and like my grandparents, and it's very communal as well. So there was a lot of that being instilled in me, the concept of community, supporting each other. And then in school I was a head girl in primary school. I didn't want to be, but that's a story for another day. I was also a school dining hall captain in high school. I used to play field hockey, netball, so a lot of like team player sort of thing, team leadership as well. And then in high school, I was also always just doing things. I remember I used to have a blog writing about my friends. So this concept of leadership, community, discipline has been there since like forever. But I would say right now, there's a lot of in me like just really wants to support other people, giving back to society, making sure I'm supporting and playing my role. I think I've been really fortunate to meet amazing people along my journey, mentors, and also kind of just me wanting to give back as well. Yeah.
Okay, so many people in positions that you are, or maybe lots of decision-making positions, have a struggle balancing between their personal and professional growth.
Yeah.
How are you doing that?
It's not easy. I think also trying to find a balance can take quite a bit of time. It's something, I guess, you learn as time goes by. I've had a whole corporate career for almost a decade. So there's been a lot of, missteps along the way, also figuring out things. I did mention I took a career break. So that tells you a lot. And I think at that time I was struggling with, burnout, trying also to find my own time. Now, getting time off is a non-negotiable because of what I went through.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you're just starting out, you might not be able to figure out that balance. But I think it comes with time. Also surrounding yourself with people who understand and who can kind of like spot some of these things helps. Because sometimes when I'm having conversations with younger people, my siblings, I can tell when they're kind of like frustrated or they're not taking time off, and I'm like, maybe during the weekend you need to close off the laptop, and just go out there, touch grass. That's what they're saying nowadays.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, because there is a point in a career where you get to feel frustrated. You feel like your energy is focused on a lot of things, and I think the break gives you the clarity on what to focus on and what not to focus on. And given the whole like addiction to like just scrolling on phone, I think a lot of people don't realize that that contributes to your burnout, that contributes to your frustration, and definitely being out of that is important. So Jasiri is an incredible network. I would love to hear about your proudest moments in Jasiri.
It's hard to pick one. Can I maybe say three?
Yes, you can. Yes, definitely.
I think the first one was when we just started. I think there was such excitement because there isn't anything similar in the UK, at least for me, that was kind of, brought about like what we had done with Jasiri Network. So just straight out of the gate, I think on our, was it third month, I remember being invited to the Kenya High Commission to kind of curate a forum for young professionals in collaboration with like the Ministry of Diaspora. And I was like, what? That was amazing for me because it was such an incredible opportunity. And I think the next one came in just a few months later, was being invited to the Buckingham Palace to represent, young professionals. Got to meet King, the King as well. So that was like really, really cool. And I think the other bit would be also kind of like our just concluded summit in December. That was our first event, our first big event in Kenya. And that was such a big dream of mine to bring Jasiri Network to the African continent. So yeah, those three, definitely top three for me.
Okay.
Among very many others, but I would say those are the top ones.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk about partnership. Africa currently really thrives on partnerships. When we get to work together, when we get to have combined efforts, we get to have bigger impacts. What would you say are the biggest partnerships you've had? Or by big, I mean big on impact. What is those partnerships that you've had that have really, really scaled you?
I would say Jasiri Network, we've been very fortunate to work with incredible people, incredible partners, and even just the community itself. We have incredible young people, and even like leaders as well, who either have kind of like given themselves a title of advisory board, and they're always, reaching out, sharing their gifts in any way that I need or just your network needs. But I think in terms of the bigger partnerships has been with, so there's this charity called the Africa Center in the UK. They have a building in one of the locations in London, in Southwark. And for 1 year, we partnered with them where they gave us space to do our events for free.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where Jasiri Network literally grew. So 2024, it started in the last quarter of 2023 and all the way to the third quarter of 2024, we had access to the space for free in exchange for also just our community being there, accessing the bar, the restaurant, and just having a more thriving community center on Saturdays. And it was really, really impactful, both for us, because that's where we grew from 30 people to 80 to 100. We couldn't fit in the space. And then they're like, Nancy, we love what you're doing. Would love to continue doing this, but we just don't have the space to accommodate your events. So now we've had to move out, but they were so instrumental because, as you can imagine, London is so expensive. getting a space that can accommodate 30 to 50 to 80 people can be quite expensive. And they took a bet on us, giving us that space, giving us that conducive environment. There's a restaurant in the building, there's a bar in the building. Just, I don't know, Kenyans and Africans, we love a good time. So it really, really worked out. And you could see the growth we had with them. And to this day, they're still supporting us, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, the beauty about life is when you put yourself out there, there are people who really get to see the good in you, what you are doing, and support you.
Yeah.
So Jasiri on socials is all out here. So I would love to hear, what should we expect from you guys in the next 5 years? Like, what should we be excited for?
There's so many things, Sylvia, and I'm also quite excited. I think over the past 2-3 years with Jasiri, it's definitely evolved into different, aspects. I think our biggest focus in 2023 was professionals, and even part of like 2024. But we also want to bring along the entrepreneurs on board. Also with Jasiri Network, I wanted to be like a bridge between the African continent and also the African diaspora. Because sometimes just getting that mix right can be quite challenging. And also trust. I think when it comes to the African diaspora, with some of the things that happen, not knowing who are credible people to deal with. So I want Jasiri Network to be kind of like that bridge, and with our events in the UK and in the western parts of the market, and also in Africa, to also allow that kind of interaction. So whether it's the diaspora coming home for the holidays, or people wanting to move back because we've had a huge chunk of young African diaspora, whether first generation or otherwise, trying to move to the continent. But sometimes can be quite overwhelming. Like, I've experienced moving and it's not easy. So with our events in Kenya and also our presence in Kenya, it allows them to have a feel of the continent and also just start figuring out for themselves how they want to return, and also for investments, for entrepreneurs. Like, there's a lot, but I think at the core of it, Jasiri Network, I'd love for it to be a bridge and a connector between the two worlds.
Yeah, I get to talk about African storytelling, and sometimes we get to see that over the past years, the storytelling hasn't really positioned us for the good. And I see your platform as Jasiri Network as one of those places that would really redefine the stories of Africa.
Yeah.
And also debunk a lot of myths that are out there about 100%. Africa.
Oh, you wouldn't believe the sort of things I get to hear. Do you know, somebody asked me, oh, do you have buses in Kenya? I was like, I didn't know what to say. And sometimes it's not even personal. They don't know, right? And it's so interesting as well when I'm telling somebody, oh yeah, some of the coffee or tea that you drink in the UK, it actually comes from Kenya, the flowers. My favorite thing actually is, from where I stay, there's a little store that I go to shop, and the French beans are produced in Kenya. So some of those things is, I feel like the Western market, other countries out there, they don't know much about Africa. But as Africans, we know so much about them. And I'm like, there's so much to explore in Africa, in Kenya. We're so diverse, 54 countries. And even in Kenya, like 42 tribes, 47 counties. There's a lot. And I feel like we need to tell our stories more, and we need to be in charge of our stories.
Yeah, I really think like Africans need to know the role they play in their economy.
Yeah.
And with the rise of digitization and all, envisioning a future where we Africans do participate in telling our stories.
Yeah.
Because we realize from a professional perspective, as an SEO person, I get to see that there's not a lot of content about Africa. That's why a lot of people don't really get the clarity of what Africa looks like.
Yeah.
So given our professions, you used your profession to really put Africa out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really see that. So,
and you guys are also doing the same, the Kenya Wall Street, telling the stories. And I think the young people as well, everywhere on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I think the narrative is changing and slowly changing. I love following some of this amazing young people telling the stories of the continent. And sometimes I'm like, wait, that's in Kenya? I didn't know. So I'm also discovering things. And I think we're in the right we're on the right path, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. I would also say we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Getting platforms like Kenyan Wall Street and to tell the stories really like simplifies
100%.
the lives of Africans.
Yeah.
So given your expertise and the wisdom you've been able to gain in diaspora, what are the advices you would give to like Africans in diaspora who maybe just gotten there, are trying to build a community, are trying to like build that career?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. I won't even lie. I won't lie. My first winter, first of all, forget even the work, because I feel like the work is work.
Yeah.
You're professional. You'll go through it. It's fine. I think it's the other side, the personal side, which I think affects you more than you think. Because when I went to the UK, I was going as an experienced, professional. I was going to do the same thing I was doing in Kenya, but what was different was the place, the weather, the food, the people. I think that's the most challenging part. I will say to them though that it gets better. It gets better. After my first winter, I was like, damn, never again. Never again. But you learn and you just, you go with it, right? Find people that care for you. Put your mental well-being first. Make sure to check on yourself. And by all means, make sure to get support from people, your friends. If you need professionals as well, a therapist goes a long way. And there's no shame. There's no shame in seeking help. And I would say just keep going. You're doing an amazing job. That's what I would tell them.
Yeah.
Because there's no two ways about it. You'll just have to go through it. And hopefully you end on the other side, victorious. But if it doesn't work out, it's fine. Come home, no shame at all. No shame at all. And everybody has their own unique journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So as a leader, what would you say are the habits that have shaped you today?
So many. I would say so many. Starting all the way back from me being young and, my parents. I think my parents did an incredible job. My mom is a teacher, so you can imagine. My late dad was an accountant, so he was very big on numbers. Like, he had to account for everything. I would say there was a lot of like discipline growing up.
Yeah.
You can imagine with the mom being a teacher. And even in the village, she was a teacher there. I couldn't do anything wrong because everybody knew my mother. So there was a lot of that, so a lot of discipline. And even, when I started doing sports in school, lots of discipline as well. Education-wise as well, like lots of discipline. I'll say discipline. They normally say hard work eats talent for breakfast. I think that's true. Really put yourself out there. Really, for all your goals, or everything that we want to go for it. Don't be scared to start. Sometimes I know starting feels very awkward. You're scared of failure, but that's the process. So put yourself out there, work hard, discipline. And yeah, I think you'll be good. I think it's worked for me. It's worked for me, so I think it should work for a few people as well.
Yeah, I think discipline always like goes across everything and for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing your time with us here at the Kenyan Wall Street, and thank you for your incredible insights.
Amazing. Thank you, Sylvia.